Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Dr. Ratra, for introducing me. I would like to introduce Dr. Shanai Robinson, sir, who has been an independent advisor and a consultant in healthcare, and is also an industry hospitals and doctors in healthcare advisor, and is also in the pharma. He is a leader in healthcare aspects. He's been a chairman of CII Technical Committee of Health. He is the director of Ketex Health and is in the advisory board of Rishi Hood University. Formerly, Dr. Shanai has been a Group Chief Operating Officer of Apollo Hospitals, Executive Director of Global Hospitals, and is also been a Medical Director in Fortis Hospital, Chief Medical Officer of Government of India. Sir has been a very pioneer in multiple sectors, and he's been having an experience more than 35 years in different walks of life. And I would like to also introduce him as one of the most teleconsultation trainer who's been doing a omnis service in the healthcare area. Over to you, Dr. Shanai, sir.
Thank you. I hope I'm audible. Uh, 35 years when I started, when I was an undergraduate in medicine, we used to say that to diagnose a patient, you'd need history. Good history would take about 60%. 30% would come from examination and 10% would come from investigations. Today, when I talk to undergrads and postgraduate students, what I hear is 40% comes from history, 10% from physical examination, and 50% from investigations. Medical science is changing. Now, this is a very controversial thing that I've just said, and I'm sure there will be lots of consultants who will say, no, you're wrong. It's not so. We need to examine the patient. I'm not undermining or getting into that. The point I'm trying to make is that the world of medicine has changed over the last 35 years since I was a graduate student or a postgraduate student. And telemedicine is going to be the next frontier. And when I talk about telemedicine, I'm talking not just teleconsultation. It's about the whole gamut of telemedicine, which is to do with patient monitoring. It is to do with chronic disease management. It is to do with teleconsults. It's also to do with mass level screening. So telemedicine is not just teleconsults. Telemedicine is far beyond that. It's actually a serious practice of medicine. And in the next 15-20 minutes, I will talk about just one aspect of that which has been given to me, which is teleconsults and medical record keeping and how to practice safely. This is my topic, and this is what I will be talking about. In the interim, I would like to thank Dr. Rupashri and Dr. Kushali for their team for making this event happen. I think it's very, very critical and very important time for it to happen. Just to give you context, in the last 4 months since COVID, approximately 5 crore Indian 5 crore telehealth episodes have happened in India. That means 50 million people actually had some episode of telemedicine or telehealth. That is big. And 85% of them did it for the first time. Now, just this fact is an eye opener for us, and that's a very good time when the University Symbiosis Institute has actually created this platform, and I would just like to thank them. So let's, without any further ado, I'd like to get into my presentation for the day. I will be sharing a bit of a presentation. Here it goes. So the thing that I want to focus on is how do doctors practice telemedicine safely? That is the most important thing that we will need to discuss in my session, which is to do with how do I practice telemedicine, and that too teleconsults safely, which actually means that I need to be compliant with MCI requirements, and also how do I manage to ensure that I stay with parameter law. So these are two things that I want to, which are the session objectives for the next 15-20 minutes. Now, when I talk about telemedicine and teleconsults, there are 4 things that every doctor or every a hospital or an entity needs to understand and take care of. Just 4 things. What are the 4 things? The first thing that we need to consider is the 4 things are identify the patient and the doctor. That's 1. Number 2, ensure that you take consent, which is 2. Number 3, ensure that you take out legal prescriptions And last but not the least, maintain proper records. So these are the 4 core areas of practicing telemedicine and teleconsult safely and within the ambit of law. I will delve a little deeper into this. What I wanted to say was that what is this identity? What does this mean? Having what they say identifying. So identifying what the MCI guideline says very clearly is uh, identify the doctor and the patient properly, especially because we are talking about teleconsults where the patient is not having a physical consult. So it is very important for the patient to be able to identify the doctor before they choose the consult. There are platforms out there where the patient pays first and then they're allotted a doctor, which is not really in compliance with MCI guidelines. So what we really need to do is ensure that the doctor is identified, their name is properly known to the patient, the degrees, the practice, their experience. This should be available to the patient when they're making the choice. Similarly, for the doctor, it's very important for them to identify the right patient. So whenever you're choosing to do practice, do teleconsult of any kind, please make sure that you identify the doctor and the patient accurately. This is in a nutshell when we talk about identification. This is point number 1. Point number 2 is more about consent. Now, consent is a major issue that doctors face when they're in practice today. 85% of most litigations faced by doctors is because of improper consent or proper records. 85% of all litigations faced by doctors is because of improper consent and improper records. So what is this consent and why is it so important? So when a patient comes into our OPD, there is something called an implied consent, which means that the patient has actually consented because they have chosen you, they have come all the way and they're actually taking consult from you. So you really don't get into a documented consultation for an OPD consult. However, in case of teleconsult, I suggest very strongly that you must ensure that you take a consent, and the consent must properly tell the patient that the reason why you are taking the consult is because I will not be physically examined. Now you can term it any way you want to. I'm not getting into that kind of detail. What I'm saying is, in the consent form, you must make sure that the patient understands and accepts that there will be no physical examination of the patient, which means then that the patient must understand that this is going to happen over a video or over technology, and the diagnosis will be based on history and the investigations that are shown, and the treatment management, etc., will be based on these 2 parameters. There will be no physical examination. So consent becomes very important, and that's why it's called that's why it's so important, and that's why MCI has talked about consent. And just to give you reality of where this consent is in the MCI guidelines, we would like to say that the clause 3.4.3 is very clear about the consent. So those of you who are interested to get into more details, they can go and check the MCI guidelines, but this is what it talks about when it says that you need to take consent. So I've already covered one, which is identification. The second piece that I talked about was taking proper consent. It is very important for you to maintain a record of that consent. That also is very important, and I'll talk more about it when I talk about point number 4, which is about record keeping. The third thing that is very important when you are doing teleconsults is to ensure that the doctors take out legal prescriptions. Now, what is a legal prescription? MCI has clearly laid out guidelines about legal prescriptions, but the laws are very clear for doctors. Prescriptions come under the ambit of 4 major laws, which is the Indian Medical Council Act, the Drugs and Cosmetics Act, the NDPS, which is the Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substances Act, the Drugs and Magic Remedies Act, and the Pharmacy Act. Now, some of them may not be applicable for prescriptions, and some of them are. What eventually does it mean to a doctor? What it means is that the patient must get a prescription which is legal. And I will just take another minute to show you what are the components of a legal prescription. So the components of a legal prescription have been very clearly defined by MCI. The doctor's name, their credentials, their contact details must be available on the prescription. This is important. Their registration number should be available on the prescription. The second thing is the patient's demographic details must be available. That means the patient's names, age, sex, etc., etc. In a teleconsult, doctors have been very clearly told that they must put in a provisional diagnosis. This is a mandatory requirement for a proper legal prescription. If you are writing a prescription, please ensure that the diagnosis is available. Next, it should bear a legible signature. And last but not the least, this is not mandatory, but I would like to say that you should always put a disclaimer there that this prescription is coming on the basis of a teleconsult, and you still would like to make sure that the patient understands that there has been no physical examination conducted. So this is in brief what is a legal prescription. This is mandatory if you are practicing teleconsults. So we have already covered number one major area, which was identification. The second thing we talked about was ensure that you take a proper consent. Number three, we said ensure that you take out a proper legal prescription. What is the last thing that we will need to talk about? The last thing that we will talk about is something that we call records. Now, MCI has made it very clear that records are very important for doctors to maintain, especially for teleconsults. So there are some clauses there which I have put there, 3.7.2, 1, 2, 3. All of them talk about record keeping. You can get into more detail later. But the kind of records that they expect, MCI expects every doctor to maintain is like this. All the logs, emails, chat, text record, which is pertinent to the consult has to be available to you. So when did this consult happen, at what time, which date, etc., must be available. Number two, every kind of record that you saw. So in case you saw investigations, x-rays, old prescriptions, blood test reports, all of them should be available. And last but not the least, the prescriptions should be available. So this is as far as maintenance of records is concerned. And now we understand that these are so critical. And why I've talked about these four things is because these are the ones that are actually the core of practicing safe telemedicine. This is the core. There are a lot of details, and of course we ourselves also train doctors on how to practice telemedicine safely. We also tell there are two courses that we run. One is about basic courses on how to practice, and the second one is how to use telemedicine in medical practices and hospitals, which is a more popular course because people love to understand how can I use this in my hospital or in my medical practice. But today's topic that was given to me was teleconsults and record keeping, and I've tried to keep it very brief, very succinct, telling people that this is the core of what you need to ensure that you have. Now, there's more about telemedicine than just this. One area that is very interesting is two areas that I also want to talk about, and that is we must, a lot of doctors ask me, how do you actually do a consult? It's very awkward. So my answer to them is very simple. What you should do is you should simulate a regular consult that happens in an OPD. So whenever you do a consultation, the way you should do it is as if you were doing it in your OPD. So when a patient comes in, make sure that they are greeted properly, that you make them feel comfortable. You ask them, how are you doing today? Ask them about their history, their symptoms, how are they, how is their health, etc., etc. Make them feel comfortable. After which you can get into the more detailed history that you want. So it should be your endeavor whenever you are using a telemedicine platform or to giving a consultation, try to simulate a physical consultation which would happen in your OPD or in your hospital. This is important. It's important for you to give comfort to the patient and at the same time be comfortable yourself. The other area that doctors always talk to me, especially surgeons, is that you don't examine a patient, so it's not really complete. So telemedicine, it doesn't really work. For me, so I was giving I was doing a master class for eye surgeons, and they said, no, it works for other specialties. It may not work for eye. When I talk to cardiac surgeons, they say, oh well, it may not work for us. But the fact is, the next question that people ask is, how can we overcome lack of physical examination? So there are three areas that you can use for overcoming, or three elements that can get in and help you to support your teleconsult. I'm not saying this is applicable for every doctor, but then we are talking to hospitals and medical colleges. There are three things you can do. One is you can put an integrated device with the patient. There are a plethora of devices that you can put in, and the use cases vary from specialty to specialty. So I know of people who are using telecardiology, and one of my previous speakers talked about ECG. You can actually do an ECG in a remote area or wherever you want to upload it. Doctor can have a look at it. You want to make it more complex, you digitize the ECG, put in an AI intelligence search engine onto it. It will screen abnormal ECGs, and then only the abnormal ones will come to a cardiologist. But frankly speaking, is it practical? That's something that you have to look at. Why? Because you're not getting 10,000 ECGs in a day, where you require an AI engine to sort out this. If you're getting only 50 ECGs in a day, I'm sure doctors can have a look. So for me, the practical application is very critical. What kind of other devices can you have? When I was talking about eye, for example, you can have cameras at the periphery, where people can take photographs of the fundus, and big time diabetic retinopathy can be diagnosed and treated by retina specialists sitting in specific areas. So integrated devices, you can do real-time monitoring. You can do ICU level monitoring. You can do a lot of stuff there with integrated devices. The other area that you have is having trained HCEWs, which is healthcare workers. You can have a nurse, you can have a doctor at the other end, you can have a ASHA worker. A lot of us have already talked about it. You can give them training, and they can help in the consult quite substantially, depending on the level at which you are. So there are so many use cases that are there, and I think every use case is critical. For example, just a simple example, I'm a consultant. I have patients already admitted in the hospital. I have to leave town for some emergency or for a conference. What happens to those patients? Can I do a teleconsult while the patient is admitted in the hospital? I have my resident staff, which is looking after them. Can I just do a morning, evening consult with them? Absolutely. That is one big use case. So now you don't have to be completely cut off from your patients if you are traveling. So can you, I run a different company. So we get advice, can you run a tele ICU? So I get hospitals from other countries telling me, we don't have ICU specialists. Can you provide ICU facilities for us? So they have this fantastic ICU, but they don't have a critical care specialist. Can we have critical care specialists sitting here in India or within a city and managing ICUs, or at least supervising treatment based on other doctors sitting there? Can we do teledialysis? So can we manage dialysis centers? So there is a lot of use case, which I will, the time is short here, but every specialty will have a different use case on how to use telemedicine and teleconsults. But we were talking about how to manage lack of physical examination. I just give you an example of how trained healthcare workers can also help you. And last but not the least was the qualified doctor part, which you have already covered, where you have residents or you have other doctors who will help and supervise the treatment there. So these are two other areas that I wanted to talk about, which was basically to do with teleconsults. We talked about one area, which is how do I practice safely. We said, how do we practice safely? One, we need to make sure there are 4 things that we do. One is we properly identify ourselves. Number 2, we take proper consent. Number 3, we take out proper prescriptions. And last but not least, we maintain proper records. How do I obviate the lack of physical examination? I gave you some ideas around that. You can have a healthcare worker, you can have a qualified doctor, you can have some integrated devices, you can have all the 3. See, you can have all the 3 in one place. So a lot depends on the use case that you want to create. So I think the focus should be more on how do I use telemedicine rather than on the technology itself, because technology is not telemedicine. Telemedicine is a practice of medicine. It is healthcare delivery using technology. So a lot of people get into this in this thing about the features of the technology platform. They're not very critical. What matters is how do you use it in your practice. I am a dentist. Can I use telemedicine? Of course you can. I am just a small specialist sitting, a diabetologist. Can I use telemedicine? Of course you can. Now there are different use cases for that. Time is short. My topic is about how do I do teleconsults, and I have talked about that in brief. I would be very happy now to answer any queries regarding whatever we have discussed today.
Thank you, Dr. Shanai, for your wonderful deliberation. I would like to take few questions today. How are the different use cases of teleconsults?
Okay, so I discussed some of them just now with you, teleconsult. So let's go. So teleconsults are of various kinds, as I said. First is a primary consult where a patient comes to you for the first time, and there are some restrictions around what MCI says about what you can prescribe there, which I think that because of paucity of time we can't talk about it. But the fact is, there is a first time patient who comes to you. So what do you do with them? This is a powerful tool which you can use on your websites or in your social media. Every doctor hospital can use it to create a bigger funnel so that they can access more patients. Now, once the patient has talked with you, has interacted with you, it could be first consult, then you impress them to such an extent that next time you tell them, please come to my clinic and I will carry on with the examination. So that is the one thing, that is the first kind of consultation which everybody talks about. The second is do follow-ups. Now, I don't want to talk too much about follow-ups because everybody knows about what. But the third kind of consult is providing, let us say, second opinions. So a lot of patients have, would like to take a second opinion, especially, when they've been asked to go for a surgery or they've had a major diagnosis. So they want to ask for second opinions. Yes, you can provide second opinions. We have a specialty platform at Catex Health where we are providing specialty consultations only with some of the best doctors in this country. So that is the third piece, the third kind of consult you can offer. Then there are cross consults. So a patient is not just, let's say, when I talk to doctors, they say, no, I want a specific platform which looks after my specialty. And I keep telling them, you're a cardiologist, great, but the patient does not only come to you for cardiology. He may be a diabetic. He may also be taking nephrologist or an endocrinologist opinion. You might need somebody else's opinion. So cross referrals is something which is very easy to do as one other use case. Then let me talk about, I told you some specific use cases about managing ICUs using, integrated technologies. Can you manage dialysis centers? Yes. Can you, telepathology and teleradiology? I'm sure there are going to be discussions on that. So you can actually do a lot of scientific discussion on slides, on images, and diagnose them. So we say that there are about 7 different kinds of consultations that you can actually take place using telemedicine. I hope I answered that question.
Thank you, Dr. Shanai. I would like to ask you one more question is, how can you utilize telemedicine for better care and clinical outcomes?
So, we are facing an epidemic of chronic diseases and NCDs. I mean, today I endemic of corona, but the fact is there has been an ongoing epidemic of what we call NCDs, non-communicable diseases, right? So non-communicable diseases are peculiar. What we need in NCDs is that, number one, they never get cured as such. We need to, so the purpose of managing an NCD is to ensure better clinical outcomes, a healthier patient, less complications. And that's also the purpose of every surgeon. They don't want the patient to go back after surgery and get some complication at home. So the whole focus is to make the patient better at home. And what does this mean? That means there are 2-3 things that are critical. One is that we must be able to ensure that the patient has got good compliance or adherence, whatever you want to call it. People don't like the word compliance in the US. People say it's more about patient adherence. So I'll talk about patient adherence. I'm fine with that. So it is important to get patients to adhere to your instructions that you've given to them. Worldwide, we find that patients have got less than 50% compliance on medical instructions. I'll repeat, less than 50% compliance. It's a major area. Can we use telemedicine to do that? Absolutely. How do we use it? As I said earlier, telemedicine is not about teleconsults. Telemedicine is about educating. It's about giving instructions. And Catex Health has a very interesting, it's about patient engagement, patient education. It's about monitoring patients at different levels. You can have level 1 monitoring where you only monitor symptoms. You also have level 3 monitoring, which is real-time ICU level monitoring. So NCD management is basically about improving patient compliance. How do you do that? You first educate them. You ensure that they get instructions on time. Number 3, you monitor their health parameters. You give them reminders. You also give them to consult with you as and when is required. So people don't come for follow-ups because it's too, whatever. Maybe they're lazy, they don't feel the need to come, so they don't come. So all of this is possible on a comprehensive telemedicine platform. So it's not just teleconsult. It's about monitoring, patient education, patient engagement, which totally would improve your clinical outcome. Let me give an example. Patient undergoes a TKR, a total knee replacement, but they also are diabetic. They go home. Diabetes is uncontrolled. Wound gets infected. Clinical outcome is definitely bad, right? Or it is suboptimal. It is very important for the patient when they were at home to ensure that the diabetes was controlled. It's not, and therefore, if you are monitoring the patient remotely with a clinical dashboard, which we offer to our doctors, you can ensure that the diabetes, or the sugar, if it is going out of control, can be managed properly. So you can actually catch complications early and treat them early. Same is the case with anything. So if you're talking about cancer, you're talking about nephrology, renal failure, heart failure, liver failure, all the major diseases, they all require monitoring and management and adherence and behavioral change and diet support and psychology support and so many things that, this 30 minutes is too little to talk about the whole plethora of telemedicine and the whole universe of telemedicine. I hope, I'm trying to give as much information as briefly as possible.
Thank you, Dr. Shana. It was a wonderful explanation in terms of better clinical outcomes. Next, I would like to ask you, can you please throw us a light on what is wrong with using telephone, WhatsApp, Skype, and social media platform for practicing telemedicine?
Oh, very good question, doctor. Because I think this is something that most doctors continue to not understand. They continue to provide their consultations over the phone or on Skype or on WhatsApp. I just went through 4 areas that are core for a safe legal consult. So can you record a consent and keep it if you are doing a telephonic consult? Where is the legal prescription? Where is the record? If the court tomorrow asks you, can you please produce all the records that went into this consult, where will you be able to get those records? So I understand that the advantages or the pros of these platforms is simple. It's very convenient. It's very easy for the patient and the doctor both, but it is also seriously unsafe. You are not actually practicing telemedicine. So my request to doctors and my fellow professionals and colleagues is, please be safe. It's not patients it's not that the patient comes to you to litigate. It's not just that the patient can be upset with you and then you can get into trouble. So ensure all your records are there in one place. Ensure that your consent is taken properly. And of course, there should be a class. There is a class in coming on video, talking to a patient. Today we are doing COVID care, for example. I would like to see the patient's face. Can I see whether they are in respiratory distress? I can actually tell by the face, right? I can tell the respiratory rate. I can see the nostrils. I can see cyanosis. I can see a lot of visual clues which are not available over the phone or on a WhatsApp chat. So primarily, if you want to be safe, then please use and choose a safe platform to practice telemedicine. I can see the time, it's 5:29.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shana. It was wonderful deliberation, and thank you so much for giving us the time and also answering all our questions. I would extend my wholeheartedly a big thanks for giving us all this opportunity to discuss with you. Thank you, Dr. Shana.